Welcome to the Degenerate Gamblers. It's Monday morning. Listen, I got a little bit of coffee on me, in me. If I look a little disheveled, I don't know. Probably haven't slept in a couple days. You saw this weekend. How crazy was it? Probably the wildest college football weekend, I don't know, maybe in 10 years. Um, let's get into it. If you like what you're seeing, you like what you're hearing, click the link on the bio below. Look, you got to join us on the Discord. We got an unbelievable crew there, guys from all over the country with different types of information. You see how inexpensive it is. 24.99 a month. Go to whop.com, hit the link in the bio. I'm a little jacked up. Here comes the coffee. Let's get into this past weekend. It was wild. Let's start with Thursday night. Thursday night, we had a couple games. We had Troy State, Troy University. Somebody corrected me on there, and you were right. It used to be Troy State back when I was coaching. Now it's Troy University. But Thursday night, we had a couple games. Uh, you know, not big games. Didn't real put a unit or two on a few things. We didn't get crazy until Friday. Friday, we got a little nutty, and I put out a video. You saw it. Woo! Put out a little video because we had Syracuse going into UNLV as like it started as a 7 point dog. I think the line went down to 5.5. Syracuse was plus 220 on the money line. We were all over it. That was my pick of the week. Here's how crazy that game got. Cuse playing UNLV. I said right off the bat, I liked it as a middle game because Cuse was an underdog. They went up 14 to nothing early. What did we do? We hedged. We grabbed UNLV plus 7. As you know, the game went overtime. Cuse ended up winning 44-41. Guys, we hit all three sides, baby. We hit Syracuse plus 7. We hit Syracuse money line plus 220. Then we hit UNLV plus 7 on the backside. So we had a really good Friday night. Uh, Excellent going into Saturday morning, Saturday at noon. You knew things were going to get wild, man, when you watch ESPN kickoff and that kid from California, looked like a California surfer dude with Vans on, kicked like a 35-yard field goal to win 100 grand. You knew things were going to get a little bizarre then. So we started off noon on Saturday morning. And right off the bat, you guys know what we're going into. You know what we're betting. We took both Navy and we took Army because we're all over military on this show. That's what we do. We bet military. Why do we bet military? Why do we bet the armed forces? Because they're 9-1 against the spread this year. Yeah, 9-1, Army and Navy. Game started. Both of them just took care of business quickly. Army was all over Tulsa, uh, beat the hell out of them. Navy smacked Air Force. We had them both. We had them parred. We had them teased. We had them a teaser with Clemson later on. Ooh, that tease also hit. So we had a really good start going into the noon and 3 o'clock games. We had Texas A&M over Missouri. They smashed Missouri. I'm starting to wonder, and I said it. I said, Missouri has a solid offense. I'm a little wary about their D because Vanderbilt beat them, and I mean, in overtime. And I mean, who's Vanderbilt, right? I mean, who's worried about playing Vanderbilt? Maybe Alabama. I don't know. We'll get into that a little bit later. So we go into we smack Navy, we smack Army. We go into some of these games. I'll go over them real quickly, just so you have an idea of how these teams are going forward. It's not necessarily about who won, who lost, but let's take a look at what we're dealing with the rest of the season because Penn State had a tough time with UCLA. Penn State did not look great against UCLA. Didn't cover. Had a tough time moving the ball. I'm not a lover of Penn State at this point during the season. SMU looks like the real deal. I mean, they beat Louisville by what, 7, I think? Yeah, they beat them by a touchdown. But they looked impressive. They looked very impressive. Ohio State had a rough first half against Iowa. Came out and blew them out in the second half. Ohio State, of course, it's the cream of the crop in that Big Ten. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I think everyone else is here on level 2 and 3, and Ohio State is level 1. That's my own opinion. Um, Ole Miss bounced back like we all thought after that terrible home loss against Kentucky. And they beat the shit out of South Carolina. Went up there, smacked the cocks. Did I just say that? That was bad. Um, they beat the cock. That's even worse. They beat South Carolina. They beat South Carolina 27-3. Um, they look solid still. I mean, they have players, man. We'll see this weekend. University of Georgia beats Auburn 31-13. That was not a very impressive game. I mean, Auburn just kept scoring, coming back. They didn't cover, didn't come close to covering. At this point, my attitude has changed on Georgia. I liked them at the beginning of the season. I thought they were the team to beat. I think there's probably 10 teams that could beat them right now. Look, the college football, the whole entire landscape has changed. We'll get into that later. There's a lot of teams that have a chance to win this thing now. One of the teams I love, Toledo of the MAC, and we're getting ready for some action probably next week. Toledo beat Miami of Ohio, covered 1 by 10. Indiana played Northwestern. Remember we talked about it? I like Northwestern. They backdoor covered. They backdoored in that shitty little field up in Chicago. They won 41-24. Am I impressed? It's one of the best teams Indiana's ever had, ever. Um, we'll see going forward. I'm not in love with them. I'll tell you a team I am impressed with, West Virginia. West Virginia just went to Oklahoma State and smacked them. We know Oklahoma State's not the real deal. They're done. And probably one of the most boring games of the weekend. Rutgers went to Nebraska. Should have won the game. Should have won the game. We had them. I think they were +7. We had a money line. They lost 14-7. 14-7. And they had like 4 or 5 different opportunities to score. They have a good big home game this weekend. I like Rutgers this weekend. That's why you got to hit the link in the bio below. Hit the link in the bio. Go to whop.com, join the Discord. That's all we do. We just talk about games, who we like, who we don't like. It's crazy. And we got a good crew. Getting into it, we had Clemson playing Florida State, won by 16. They had to win by 16 and have to cover. Florida State actually covered that game, and that game was shady. I was talking to my dad about that game. He liked Florida State. And I said, I can't disagree with you because the line actually should be a lot higher. It's not. And Florida State covered. Clemson is playing well. Clemson's not messing around. They lost that first game against Georgia, played terrible. They're all about making this playoffs and going further. They're solid. Uh, let's talk about Boise State. What do? They just keep blowing teams out. Ashton Genty, I don't know how he's not going to win the Heisman. Guy score every time he touches the ball, he scores a TD. Usually has 3 or 4 TDs by the half, then they pull him. But I mean, they blew out Utah State 62-30. That's a team that covers just about every weekend. Uh, you had Minnesota beating USC. Minnesota is actually this is one of the best teams they've had in years. USC overrated, absolutely. Here's a team that covers just about every weekend. I think they're 4-1 against the spread. Iowa State, smack Baylor. Gotta watch them. Chance to win the Big 12, absolutely. Uh, let's get into the wildness. We just talked about a few good. Let's get into the real craziness right now. When I saw Alabama go down 14-0, and that's a game we didn't mess with. We did not mess with it. I saw him. I think I had him in the wild man parlay on the money line or something. But when I saw them go down 14-0, I thought what you thought. Wow, they better get going. They will. They'll get things going. And every single time Alabama made a run, this quarterback in Vanderbilt just was unbelievable. They throw a dime, a 30, 40-yard dime, and they would just score this. They just kept scoring and scoring and scoring and won the game 40-35. They ripped down the goalpost, threw them in the river in Nashville, and the rest is history. Biggest win in Vanderbilt football ever. And which is why they're in trouble this weekend. I'm not going to get too specific. Hit the link in the bio, and I'm going to give you a winner on that game this weekend, for sure. Then you had Arkansas playing Tennessee. Nobody saw this one coming. No, people were saying Alabama's going to get beat. Tennessee's now the favorite to win the SEC. What happens? Arkansas beats them. Arkansas beat Tennessee. We did not mess with that game. One game we did mess with, we did take Washington over Michigan. Yes, we did. What Michigan went to Washington, lost by 10. That's not an upset. I mean, I've been saying it all year. Michigan's not that good. You have Ohio State and the rest of the Big Ten, which could beat each other. A team that's just fallen off the earth, just fallen off the earth is University of Central Florida. They got smacked again this weekend. They have all kinds of problems on defense. They play University of, what do they play this weekend? I'm not even sure, but Florida smacked them. Um, Florida has to go. Florida's won their last two. They're looking decent. They got to go to Tennessee this weekend. I would not want to be Florida going into Tennessee. You want to go to Knoxville after Tennessee just lost to Arkansas? Could be a bad day for Florida. Hit the link on the bio. Join the Discord. Get on there. You want to bank. You can't go into the college football weekend just throwing darts. You have to have information. Why do you think we've been betting Army and Navy since the kickoff in August? Why? Because I had heard through the grapevine that this was probably one of the best Army teams they've ever had. This is a special team. Navy too. Navy's got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. The kid is a beast. They're 9-1 against the spread. We've had it both teams every single week. Um, let's get to the final game this weekend. This game could be the wildest finish that I've never seen because I went to bed. I had Miami with about 4 or 5 different teasers, parlays, everything. I had the money line on Miami. Miami was down when I went to bed 35-10 with what, 5 minutes left in the third quarter? I'll say it again. Miami was down 35-10 with about 5 minutes to go. It was done. I'm like, I don't know what in the world's happening. I mean, looks like they have athletes. Cal has a good quarterback. Cal is not bad. I didn't think they were that good. I went to bed, woke up in the morning. Miami won that game by 1? How? And they scored 28 points in the fourth quarter. Look, I like Miami. They are definitely the favorite with Clemson to win the ACC and get a playoff spot. I really do like them going forward. That game was probably well, it was second to Vanderbilt beating Alabama. But I really, really like Miami going forward. They came back. I think that was their scare. And going forward, they should be extremely solid. I don't think they'll lose again until they play Clemson. And then we'll talk about that. I don't know. But those two teams look like the two best in the ACC. The SEC is just in shambles. It's in shambles right now. They have one loss. Alabama probably has to win outright to get a playoff spot. I mean, and look what Georgia's final schedule. It's just insane. Um, Mississippi's got to be smiling right now. If they can run the table, I think they get a spot. Last weekend was wild. I think we did really well compared to everybody else. I have 3 or 4 handicapped friends on the West Coast, went in Vegas, and he was impressed with our weekend, especially with the Syracuse game, man. I mean, if you can hit all 3 sides of a game going into Saturday, it helps a lot. It helps a lot. Let's talk about this weekend coming up. This is a great weekend coming up. Actually, forget about the rivalries. Forget about conferences. This looks like a money-making weekend. It does. Do you realize there's 9 games before we hit Saturday? 9 games. I mean, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there's a bunch. 9 games before we hit Saturday. Tuesday, tomorrow, we start with one of the games I love. Got Florida International playing Liberty. Minus 19 Liberty is. Liberty's got a good squad. Liberty's got a good football program. Look at the last few years there. That's a school that used to be 1AA, along with Georgia Southern, Troy University, a lot of these schools, and they've just upped their game. They have great facilities at that school. Red, white, and blue, baby, Liberty Flames. But they play Florida International. Florida International has had kind of a tough start. Lost to Monmouth by 3, 1AA school. Lost to Florida Atlantic by 18. lost to or beat Central Michigan, who's not bad. But if you go back to August 31st, this Florida international team lost to Indiana University. Um, Score at one point was 21 to it was 14 to 7, 21 to 7. The game was not a real blowout. They kind of hung. Uh, I like the points here. There's a free one I just gave you. I like Florida International tomorrow night playing Liberty. It's on national TV. I think they'll come to play. They still have some good, decent Florida players. You know how much talent's in that state. That state, the state of Florida, uh, they staff what? University of Miami, Florida, Florida State, Alabama, Georgia gets a few players. Florida International, Florida Atlantic, South Florida, Central Florida. I mean, come on. There's so much talent in that state. They have a few of them. Um, I'm going with the dog tomorrow night. I'm going with the dog. I'll have more information. If you hit the link in the bio below, if you like what you hear, you think maybe some of this information can help you, uh, I'll have a big write-up on that game tomorrow afternoon. Got to make a few phone calls, but I will. A lot of games going into Thursday and Friday. We got Thursday, we have Coastal Carolina playing at James Madison, two solid teams. Middle Tennessee playing Louisiana Tech. Friday, you got Memphis, South Florida, Northwestern at Maryland. Maryland minus 10. Northwestern, big dog on the road. And then you got poor Utah State having to play UNLV after that overtime loss Friday. That could be interesting. Utah and Arizona State. These games are before Saturday. You got to join, man. Get on the Discord. Let's go. And if you're not quite sure, follow Howie Dewey on YouTube. I got a comedy special on there. If you want to take a break, you want to watch a few jokes, watch my special. It's called Teach the Children. Yeah. Uh, so we get to Saturday. Saturday, we right off the bat, it's big ACC starting at noon. You got Georgia Tech at North Carolina. North Carolina's been playing better since that blowout to James Madison 2 weeks ago. They're playing better. Uh, +6 at Chapel Hill. Then you have Clemson at Wake Forest. Wake Forest home dog, 20.5. Clemson's all business right now, though. I mean, I don't know if that's really a letdown team. Dabo Sweeney has them playing like they are a financial advisor on Wall Street. Every day is just business. There's not a lot of emotions there. They just want to make the playoffs. And since that loss to Georgia, they've been doing what they need to do to make it. Got a couple MAC games. Missouri coming off that thrashing at Texas A&M. They go to University of Massachusetts. They should take care of business, I would think. Game I love. Game I love. I'm not going to tell you. You probably know if you listen to this the last few weeks, you probably know where I'm going with this. But Wisconsin, who's been playing great football, goes to Rutgers. Rutgers is a home favorite, -3. You know where I'm going on that. You know where I'm going on that. Rutgers could have put the ball in the end zone once or twice. They would have definitely beat Nebraska. How'd you like to be Syracuse? How'd you like to be South Carolina? How would you like to be South Carolina this weekend? The Gamecocks. They got to go to Alabama. Alabama's 21 in a hook. We'll talk about that one. You know where I'm going. Game I love. University of Alabama, Birmingham, UAB. They have to go to West Point this weekend. They got to go to West Point. Got to go to Mikey Stadium, play Army. Army's laying 24. That's a lot of points. I don't care if they were laying 64. I'm going with the Black Knights, baby. I don't every weekend. I'm just sticking with the military. They're 9-1 against the spread. How do you not? Birmingham's in trouble. Oh, you got Washington going to Iowa, coming off that big win against Michigan. Now they got to go to Iowa. We'll talk about that. Join the Discord. Hit the link in the bio below. Louisville, Virginia, that's going to be an interesting game. Cal coming off that heartbreaking loss to Miami, goes to Pitt, who's undefeated. Pitt's one of the biggest surprises in college football this year. Undefeated. They're laying 4-2 Cal. Cal's got athletes. Cal's got a great quarterback, good coaching staff. They've turned that program around. That's going to be a great game. Penn State. I'm not really impressed with him. They're going to another school this weekend. I'm not really impressed with him. Penn State plays USC. We'll have some information on that game. A couple more Big Ten games, Purdue, Illinois. Texas plays Oklahoma. That could be interesting. Oklahoma is, that rivalry. It's one of the biggest in college sports, Texas at Oklahoma. Oklahoma laying 14 and a half. That could be interesting. One of the games I love this weekend. I love it. Two X1 AA schools, now Division One. They're in the hunt. They have a great year. These teams could make the playoffs. You have Old Dominion playing at Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, a slight point and a half favorite. I'm gonna have to play on that game. Yes, I am. Cincinnati going down to University of Central Florida, who can't beat anyone, right? They can't stop anyone. They can't stop anyone. They're minus 3.5 at home at Cincinnati. I don't know. Stanford going to Notre Dame. They took a beating this weekend. Notre Dame, pretty big favorite, 23, minus 23. The game I like. You get into it. It's 4 o'clock Saturday. Arizona playing BYU. They're going to Mormon country. Mormons are minus 3.5. I said the Mormons. It's like the Catholics. Notre Dame, the Catholics. The Mormons are minus 3.5, playing at home against Arizona. BYU had a week off. This team is solid. They're good. They cover, man. This team covers. I'm looking right now at BYU. They're 5-0 against the spread. Yeah, I think we've had them 4 out of 5 weeks. How do you bet against BYU at home? Stupid. And we got some more MAC games. Another team I wouldn't want to be this week, Mississippi State. They can't beat anyone. They are bad. They are. How did they get so bad so quickly? They got to go to Georgia. A lot of games. We get into the night games. You got Florida visiting Tennessee. Would not want to be the Gators. Great game Saturday night. Great game. Mississippi's playing at LSU. LSU is actually a home dog, but you got to remember it's a night game in LSU in Baton Rouge. If you've ever been there and you sit in the stadium, you have a heart attack. You think a bomb went off whenever anybody scores a touchdown because the whole stadium starts moving. I don't know who built that thing. They don't have the best civil engineers down in Louisiana. You've seen that education system. You got Ohio State playing Oregon. That's the game of the week. Oregon's at home, plus 3.5 at home. Ohio State will be up for this game. They're solid. Uh, there's a game at around 8 o'clock Saturday. It's going to be my pick of the week. I'm not going to tell you right now. Got to hit the link. Hit the link in the bio. There's going to be a lot of money wagered on this particular game. What did I just say? That was Georgia State I was talking about before. Marshall plays at Georgia Southern. Marshall. It's the same line, plus 2.5. That's wild. I was just talking about that game before, which was Old Dominion at Georgia State, both 1 AA schools. Look at that. Georgia State, who lost to Georgia Southern earlier this year, but you remember we bet Georgia Southern. Those two teams are very similar, very similar. Georgia State is in Atlanta, big commuter school, not a huge fan base. Play ODU at home. We have a play on that game. And on Marshall, who just is smacking the teams lately. They're playing at Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern is a home dog. That's wild. I remember, this is crazy. I gotta tell you this. When I was at Georgia Southern years ago, but we had a really good team. And we played Marshall, who they play this weekend. Marshall had a quarterback, by the name of Chad Pennington, went to the Jets. And they had a receiver. He wasn't bad. Had a few touchdowns. I think in the first half he had about 300 yards receiving against us. His name was Randy Moss. It just brought back memories. I just remember Pennington would throw it up in the air 50 yards. Moss would go up and grab it and just walk to the end zone. Both teams were 1 AA back then. Syracuse, NC State, Iowa State plays West Virginia, Minnesota, UCLA. UCLA is only plus 5. And then the game could be interesting. Boise State goes to Hawaii. The line's 21. Hawaii's not bad. That could be interesting. Guys, we've been crushing it. We're all the way to week 7. You guys that have been following us on Discord, you're pretty happy. Um, I will be putting out my pick of the week Wednesday. I'll have it out on my same YouTube channel, Howie Dewey on YouTube. Um, we had Syracuse last week. That was my pick of the week. You can go back and look at it. You can go back and look at these previous podcasts. You can go back and see when we had Northern Illinois over Notre Dame at plus 2,100. You can see the plus 31,000 parlay that we hit. Uh, I think this weekend could be the best weekend so far. I just see a couple things that jump out at me. Thanks for following. Love you guys. Hit the link in the bio below. Go to Howie Dewey on YouTube. Guys, let's bank. Let's do this. Have a great week.